Welcome back to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. This morning, we've taken a look back on the tragic mass shooting that happened in Orlando, Florida 2 weeks ago that claimed the lives of 50 people and left 53 others injured. The gunman, Omar Mateen, was a U.S.-born Muslim who became a person of interest to the FBI in 2013. A former co-worker described him as unhinged and unstable and said he had talked about killing people and voiced hatred of gays, blacks, women, and Jews. Mateen is believed to have been what's called a homegrown extremist. The vast majority of Muslims are peaceful, pious people who suffer more from terrorism and violence than non-Muslims. 93% of Muslims do not support the radical views of terrorists. My next guest is Othman Atta. He is the executive director of the Islamic Society of Milwaukee. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
And thank you for being here this morning. There are some 15,000 Muslims that reside right here in southeastern Wisconsin. Tell us more about the Islamic Society of Milwaukee and what it is you do.
Well, we're a religious organization. We actually own 3 facilities, the south side of Milwaukee, Brookfield, and on the east side across from UWM. We mainly are providing religious services to the Muslim community. We do other things for the community at large. We do outreach, quite a bit of outreach. We help with food pantries. We have blood drives. We do many other things that are both for our community and for the community at large.
And you mentioned you have several locations that serve the Islamic faith, and Muslims all over the world right now are observing Ramadan, which started June 5th and will be ending on July 6th. And part of our conversation today is to better help our viewers understand maybe some of the things they didn't know. We all learn something new each and every day of our lives, but if you would explain what Ramadan is and what that is all about.
Well, Ramadan is one of the requirements of the Muslim faith. It's a fast. Ramadan is actually the 9th month, the name of the 9th month of the Muslim calendar. And for 30 days approximately, sometimes 29, Muslims will have a daily fast from basically dawn to dusk, where they are not able to consume any kind of food, any kind of liquids. Again, unless the person is ill, diabetic, so forth, then obviously they're exempt from fasting. In fact, they're not allowed to fast. The idea behind it is multifold. Number one, it's just a religious obligation. But in addition to that, because obviously food and water are essential items for our survival, by being able to control our appetites, what we're intaking, the idea is that you would be able then to exercise self-control in many other areas of your life. You don't become a creature of your own habits, that you're able to have that control. It also allows you to empathize with those who don't have even the most basic needs. I mean, after a long day of fasting, especially now in the summer, you're going 13, 14 hours without any food and so forth. I'll tell you, when you sit down to just have a glass of water, you truly do appreciate that we are blessed. Unfortunately, all of us as human beings tend to take even the basic things for granted.
You're absolutely right with that. And thank you for sharing it too. When we look at the tragic situation that happened in Orlando, and you hear someone say he was an American-born Muslim, but obviously his actions lean all the way towards being an extremist. What goes through your mind? Because as I said in the open of the show, this makes it hard for every other person who is of the Muslim faith when you have individuals who don't understand the difference between an extremist versus someone who is living a peaceful life as a Muslim.
I mean, we're always, of course, disturbed by the fact that we are associated with the actions of someone who's an extremist, because the impression that some will give, whether presidential candidates or others, is that this is part of what their religion is, and there's nothing that can be further from the truth. Part of the problem, part of the reason that some individuals can get away with that is that the level of knowledge or information about what Muslims believe, who Muslims are, how diverse they are, what their background is unfortunately very unknown, especially in our society in the United States, where Muslims represent really somewhere between 1% to 2% of the population. So if you provide false information, about a group of people that others don't know about, you can get away with saying just about anything. And that's unfortunate, especially when it's being done to try to score either political points or to pursue some other agenda.
Yeah, and since you brought up politics, when you hear the presumptive Republican presidential nominee, I'm going to say his name, Donald Trump, he made statements about a ban on Muslims in the U.S. and actually reinforced that thought after this tragedy in Orlando. What are your thoughts when you hear things like that? Because it seems like it's so far from the American way and against everything that this country has ever stood for. What do you think when you hear that?
Well, it disturbs me that a presidential candidate would continue to espouse that kind of rhetoric.
Yeah.
I believe that it shows that he understands not only very little about Islam, he understands very little about the U.S. Constitution. And so I think that, in my personal view, doesn't really qualify him to be a presidential candidate. I think that, again, he's trying to show to certain members of his supporters that he's tough and he's going to show them what he can do. And again, it doesn't make any sense. Law enforcement will tell you it doesn't make any sense. People in the military will tell you it doesn't make any sense. But for his supporters, it makes sense. And I think that says a little bit about him and some of the people who are attracted to his extremist rhetoric.
Mm-hmm. And it's no different than that small population of people who take Islamic beliefs and go extreme with it. You have individuals who live in our country who take their beliefs and go to the extreme as well. So it's no different. And like you said, nobody wants to say, hey, yes, that's how we all think. Everybody is an individual and nobody can be responsible for the actions or the thoughts of people.
Absolutely. And I mean, as Muslims, whenever someone does something like that, even though they want to associate with Islam or they claim to do it in Islam, all Muslim organizations, including our organizations, have come out vehemently opposed to that. Mm-hmm. And we've made that clear, whether what occurred in Orlando, whether it happens anywhere else. We stand against it, and we're willing to come out and say that, hey, this does not represent us, this does not define us, doesn't define our faith. And so, yeah, I think it's very clear. We will stand up against extremists from any background, mm-hmm. whether they happen to be Muslim or non-Muslim, doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. An extremist is an extremist.
Absolutely. And President Obama has said that the attitude that Donald Trump is displaying, especially talking about a ban on individuals who live in this country, that it only helps terrorists. And House Speaker Paul Ryan, who is a Republican, of course, has said that that is not where he sees the future of America going. So needless to say, this is going to be a very interesting political race that we see coming our way in the next few months. But I think it's just important for people overall to have love and understanding. And if they don't understand something, take the time to find out. In this day and age, you've got the internet. You don't even have to go to the library. Just look it up and have a better understanding and be open-minded about things that are different from what you may believe in.
And I think education is the most important thing. Mm-hmm. And one of the major things that we do is we do go out to many, many groups, church groups, business groups, other groups, where we actually speak to people. We let them ask any questions that they want. We say, look, we're very open. Ask us anything that you want. Because unfortunately, there is a lot of misinformation mm-hmm. that is out there. And we want people to be comfortable. What some of these presidential candidates and others are doing is basically playing on people's anxieties and fears. They're doing it against Muslims now. They've done it against the LGBT community. They've done it against African Americans, against Jews. Unfortunately, there's a history of xenophobia and hatred and anger in our country. And every few years, it seems to be a different group. And what we're doing is we're trying to stand as minorities. We're trying to stand up against any group that will try to sideline another group. We have to respect the rights and the views of all people, regardless of what their background is.
Absolutely. And I recently attended the memorial service for the man known as the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali. I happen to be from Louisville, Kentucky, and there was no way I could miss this because I grew up hearing about Ali, But I'll tell you what was so beautiful about that service was the coming together of people from so many different faiths and backgrounds and walks of life, income, color. It did not matter. matter. There was really, truly a representation of the globe there to honor a man who really made a difference. Well, he was not just a great boxer, of course. He actually was a man who believed in his Muslim faith. He was proud of it, never allowed anyone or anything to get in the way of that. And so really what ran through my mind at that time is, how are people so accepting of Muhammad Ali, who made it very clear, I'm a Muslim, my faith says I can't fight in a war, I won't fight in the war. But I mean, why do you feel like we can be accepting of one person who obviously is of the same faith, but people have an issue with other people who represent that same thing?
You know, the problem is with someone like Muhammad Ali, all of these people who are tweeting some negative things about Islam and Muslims, I never saw any of their tweets positively speaking about Muhammad Ali and the positive contribution that he made to our society. Yeah, I mean, he is a much truer representative of Islam and Muslims and just the normal Muslim who's following their beliefs than any of these extremists. And yet that's why I think that those who want to discredit, if I can say, Muhammad Ali and try to show that others represent the Muslim community really have their own agendas. They have their own in a sense, extremist views, and that's unfortunate. But I think that more and more of the lay people, the general public, are really beginning to see through that hateful rhetoric.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can only pray that, you know, this country moves forward and starts to get past the things that have been issues for so many years. And it hasn't gotten better for anyone when we use hatred against one another. As we said in the last segment, love always wins, and unity, understanding, acceptance, regardless what the scenario may be, is the only way that we can conquer hate.
I absolutely agree with you, and I think our country continues to become more and more diverse. And I think as that diversity increases, those who are the hateful, hopefully, will continue to decline. I mean, but once they see the entire diversity in people from many backgrounds, whether faiths or other races and cultures and many different aspects, I think that they'll see that, you know, this hate isn't going to work anymore. It's not going to divide us. It is not going to allow us to go out and target one group or the other.
Yes, well, I thank you so very much for coming by today. It's special to have you here, especially when we look at a tragedy where people are put in a situation where they start making judgments and having emotional thoughts about how they feel about one group of people versus another. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your having me.
It has been a pleasure. Othman Atta is the Executive Director of the Islamic Society of Milwaukee. For more information, you can log on to their website at ismonline.org or give them a call at 414-282-1812. That is going to do it for today's show. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. As always, I thank you for watching, and I hope you join us again next week as we take another look at our issues in Milwaukee. Have an outstanding day.